Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Low Unmuted. I'm your host, Lo, and this is my 2 cents, a short segment where I share a thought, an observation, or a question that's been sitting with me, and I invite you to think about it too. So, listeners, this week's topic is integrity. Before I sat down to record this episode, I posed a question on social media. I asked, what does the word integrity mean to you? And the responses were thoughtful and surprisingly consistent. People said being honest and true to your morals, being true and consistent no matter who's watching, being accountable for your actions, words, and choices. And one person summed it up to this: doing the same thing when no one is watching as you would when they are. And honestly, listeners, I agree with each and every one of those responses. Because when most of us think about integrity, we think about honesty. We think about telling the truth, keeping our word, doing the right thing. But lately, I've been wondering if integrity is even bigger than that. Because some of the greatest violations of integrity don't happen through lies, they happen through omissions, through half truths, through carefully managed narratives, through allowing people to believe something that isn't true because correcting it would cost you something. Listeners, I had a thought the other day, and when it popped in my mind, it stopped me dead in my tracks. So let me share that thought with you. Some people wear permanent secrets around their neck while standing in plain sight of the very people they're hiding them from. I want you to think about that. Every day, they carry information that would completely change the conversation if it were known. Yet, they continue to move through life as though the secret doesn't even exist. And sometimes, those same people are the first to point out everyone else's flaws, everyone else's shortcomings, everyone else's mistakes, everyone else's lack of integrity. And that's where integrity gets complicated because integrity isn't just about whether you've told a lie, it's also about whether you're living one. It's about whether the image you present to the world matches the reality you know to be true. It's about whether you're willing to look inward before looking outward. You know, the Bible talks about removing the plank from your own eye before addressing the speck in someone else's. Not because we're supposed to be perfect, but because self awareness should come before judgment. Humility should come before criticism, and honesty should begin with ourselves. I think that's where a lot of us get stuck, though. It's easy to identify somebody else's flaws, it's easy to point out where someone else falls short, and it's easy to quote scripture, talk about values, and explain what everyone else should be doing. But what's harder is asking ourselves, where am I out of alignment? What truth am I avoiding? What part of my life requires the same level of accountability that I'm expecting from someone else? Because the truth is, most people don't lose trust because they're imperfect. We all are. They lose trust because they're pretending not to be. Because eventually, the image and the reality stop matching. Eventually, the public story and the private story become two different things. And that gap, that's where integrity lives. Not in perfection, not in never making mistakes, but in alignment, in making sure your private life and your public life are telling the same story. Listeners, the more I think about it, the more I believe integrity isn't about being flawless. It's about being honest enough to acknowledge where you've fallen short. It's about extending the same grace to others that you hope to receive yourself. And it's about having the courage to look inward before pointing outward. Because integrity isn't just about the lies you tell. Sometimes it's about the truths you refuse to acknowledge. Well, that's my 2 cents. I'd love to know your thoughts. What does integrity mean to you? Meet me back here next Wednesday. And until then, remember, stay unmuted.